Sarasota progressive. Just this has been an amazing day for me, from the first event to my second event, and now being here with you guys tonight and being in this progressive haven. Oh my God, man, Newtown was amazing. Being at the yacht club this morning was amazing. I mean, you guys are just getting better and better and better. And I shared with the group that I found a place that I might retire, that I am going to retire in Sarasota. I got to just tell my husband that we're going to retire Sarasota. But, and just the energy and the synergy here, and just so very proud of you guys, and just to hear your history. I've talked to Mark, and Mark was explaining to me about a group that was started here and how it was started on a nonpartisan basis, so that people from all political ideologies and spectrums can come together and to agree where we can agree, and then where we can't, to still treat each other like sisters and brothers, and not to be so caught up on a political affiliation. That is absolutely a beautiful thing, and that is absolutely the wave of the future. You know, I said earlier this morning that it is so important that we, as Stephen Covey once said, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And so often in this political environment, it is so toxic, and we are allowing ourselves to be pulled into that into a toxic environment, particularly because who occupies the White House. But we can never allow ourselves to deny another person's humanity just because they decided to vote another way. And some people, even politicians that we respect, they benefit from having us separated based on Democrat and Republican and Green Party and Libertarian and no party. I say we form a new party called the Party of the RT, and that's the party of the right thing. Omnipartisan party of folks that are united based on what we have in common. So it is a beautiful thing. I also told a story this morning that I come from a mixed family. I do. And my brother is a conservative Republican. And we talk every morning at 7:30. Every morning, because I'm trying to understand the mind of a conservative Republican. That's my ongoing joke. But no, I absolutely love my brother. And the reason why I share that story is that so many families and relationships have splintered because of this political environment. And we must understand just this deep down inside, that fundamentally the overwhelming majority of us want the same thing. We want to live a good life. If we have children, we want them to live a life that is better than ours. We want to live in safe neighborhoods. We want to be able to take a vacation every now and then, buy a home, buy a car every now and then. Enjoy life. That is across the board. Now, we may disagree on how to get there. And as I reflect on the level of vitriol and hate that I've seen, especially on social media, talking to my brother every morning at 7:30 just reminds me that when I don't have a fancy title and, I'm not in the limelight anymore, when my mission is done, that the person that is going to come to my side, besides my husband and the son, which is a given, is my conservative Republican brother. That there is no ideological fight so serious that is going to separate our love from one another. I say that because we have people in our lives who may not believe and think the same way that we do, but we know deep down inside that they are good people, and we should not allow politics to separate us from the love of our sisters and brothers on this earth at this moment, at this time. Being together and united is better than, more important than any of this. And so I know things are heavy right now, but we didn't just get into this moment. We were coming to this moment for a very long time, and it has just revealed itself through the presidency of Mr. Trump. But it will only last. This moment will only last for a season. It is not forever. And so we must ready ourselves for the moment, even if it takes until 2020. Lord have mercy. We must prepare ourselves, though, for the moment when it is time. So this I can guarantee you, 2020 is coming. And we must prepare right now. There's an African proverb that says that one should never build their shield on the battlefield. Well, it's shield building time. So for every council member that we elect and school member that we elect and every judge and prosecutor and mayor and members of the legislature and governors, the moment is coming. And so the types of people that we support, it can't be just based on the fact that they are a Democrat. It has to be based on the fact that they are progressive and that they understand that the power that they wield belongs to the people. And we'll take progressive Republicans, we'll take progressive Green Party members. We just want folks to have a consciousness that they understand that once they get the power, that it belongs to the people and that everything that they do should be to lift the people. Those are the kinds of leaders that we're looking for. So when Dee told you that I am a hell-raising humanitarian, yes I am. I love me some Mother Jones, I do. And she once said that she would pray for the dead and fight like hell for the living. That is how I roll at all times. And Mother Jones actually said that she was not a humanitarian, that she was a hell-raiser. So I just put the two together. But in honor of her and so many fierce women, like Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, like Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, unbought and unbossed. Man, I'm feeling that. Or when Congresswoman Barbara Jordan said, what the people want is simple. They want an America as good as its promise. And fundamentally, that is what we're fighting for. That's what this Congress, this council, this conference that you're having is all about. It's about coming together and discussing and then acting upon ways in which you can create in this moment, in your neighborhood, in your community, in this state, an America as good as its promise. And when conscious-minded people come together, there's nothing that we cannot do. So I don't want you to be so burdened by what is coming out of the White House that you are unable to do what it is that you know that you were put on this earth to do. Some people are in this room because they care about the environment. And some people are in this room and in this movement because they care about fighting against income and wealth inequality. Some people are in this space because they believe that voting is the greatest equalizer and that no one should lose it for a lifetime. Some people are in this space just looking for kindred spirits, for people who are ready, willing, and able to put something on the line to create an America that is as good as its promise. I have been in the last 60 days to about 12 states and have visited some of those states multiple times, supporting candidates and also supporting issues and affiliates of our revolution. And what I have learned, whether it was being in Texas with Jim Hightower, to being in Detroit, Michigan, to being back in Ohio, is that fundamentally people just want to live a good life. I've also learned that people are hurting and they're losing faith. They have lost the faith that they used to have in our democracy and in some of our leaders. And some people just don't even believe that they can turn it around. But if I can walk you down memory lane and just remind you that all great social movements in this country, all great changes in this country have not come from the grass tops. They've come from the grassroots. Those kindred spirits without fancy titles who were determined to use their force and their power and their humanity to make this world a better place. Mother Jones is one such of those people. Fannie Lou Hamer is one such person. Daisy Bates, one such person. You can name people that you know in the movement from the past and even now who just harnessed everything that the Creator had given them to stand up for what is right, even when it was not comfortable for them. And so the question becomes for us, sisters and brothers, on this day in 2017, what are we going to do for the cause? And you don't need a fancy title to do any of those things. All you need is a willingness and a commitment to stand up for what is right. You see, titles are very good. They get your phone calls returned. They get you in the room. Titles are good, but purpose is better. And we need more purpose-driven people willing to stand up and be accounted for, especially now. Not just because of now, but especially now. And I say that because institutional racism exists before Mr. Trump took the White House. See, some people would have you to believe that this is a new phenomenon. Just ask my sisters and brothers in Newtown. They understand very clearly that this is not a new phenomenon. And so while we must fight the bigotry and the xenophobia and the hate that is coming from the Trump administration, we see it in our faces. We understand what we're dealing with, but we also must fight a system that was created to keep black and brown folks and to treat them differently and unequal, from the prison system to redlining to loans, to the fact that an article just came out in the Washington, I think it was Washington Post, that said that the only ethnic group that has not kept pace is African Americans from 2000 to this moment. We must be conscious enough in this rainbow mosaic of humanity to admit that folks from all walks of life are suffering, but there are some people that suffer disproportionately, that equality is not the same thing as equity. And what are we going to do? And so I do believe in the words of Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, but I'm feeling a little President Nelson Mandela when he said that it always seems impossible until it is done. And I want to remind you that a lot of things that we enjoy now, folks of the time, the establishment of the time, said it couldn't be done. The abolition of slavery, the establishment said it couldn't be done. Women fighting for and getting the right to vote, establishment folks of the day said it couldn't be done. Marriage equality in this country, folks said it could not be done. Standing up and fighting for what we believe in, no matter what, it always seems impossible until it is done. So when you're dealing with people who tell you why you can't do something, you need to ask them, why not? Why not, living in the wealthiest country on the face of the earth, why can't we have Medicare for all? Why not? Why can't we have paid family medical leave? There's so many working class people in this country who can't even take a day off. Why not? Why can't we create a pre-K to 16 education system that will educate our children so that they are able to compete in the global economy that they were born into? Why not? Why can't we take low-level, non-violent offenders, particularly people who are addicted to drugs, and treat them and give them the treatment that they deserve instead of criminalizing them? Why not? Why can't we do those things? Why can't we say that we are not going to stand for a representative democracy that has now molded and melded itself into an oligarchy where only the wealthiest people and what they believe and what they hope and what they want is now front and center? Why can't we say that we're going to stand up to any politician, whether they're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, no party, who do not stand up for the people? Why not? There has to be a consequence at some point. We cannot continue to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting a different result. I think Albert Einstein explained that. He said it was insanity. So we can dream a world in the spirit of our Native American sisters and brothers, that the world is as we dream it. Or as Robert Browning said, that man's reach should exceed his grasp. That within the heart and soul and spirit of all of us is a yearning, not just to be free, not just to be liberated, but to be better and to love one another. So right here in Sarasota, you are the beginning of this, and we need you, we need you, we need you. Arlene talked about the fact that we need you to sign up. If you are not signed up, we got to have you signed up and accounted for. We need your time, your treasure, and your talent. I come from a very deep place, so I all over the country, 900 miles in 3 days with Jim Hightower. Lord have mercy. We went from Austin to Red Tyler, Texas. We went from Austin all the way to Tyler, Texas. I will tell you, they are just as fired up and ready to go in Tyler, Texas as you are here in Sarasota. But the chance to meet people from all walks of life, and I met farmers, and I got a chance to talk to farm families about what some of their struggles are. And you know what it is? It wasn't just about the farm bill for them. It's about Medicare for all. And a lot of times we don't think about that, but as progressives, we have to start talking about these issues, not just from a moral perspective, but also from an economic perspective. Because for some people it's morality, for some people it's about the money. And Medicare for all not only is the right thing for us to do for individuals and their health, but it is also the right thing to do for small businesses too, who are so burdened and saddled with that debt that some of them can't even make it. If we had a Medicare for all system, that would take all of that burden away. Can I just give a shout out to the nurses at this moment, because they are the baddest. The baddest on this issue, fighting this issue. Win, lose, or draw, the nurses are out there, and they are the moral consciousness on this issue. We ought to listen to the nurses because they know. But we are at a crucial and pivotal time in our country's history that excessive and obscene amounts of wealth. I've never met anybody who begrudges anybody from being wealthy, but what we don't like is exploitation and excessive greed, so much so that you are building your mansions and your wealth on the backs and the blood and the sweat and the tears of the working class people of this country, so much so that they can't promise their children that they will have a better future than they had. Not in the United States of America. We have to continue to fight this fight. And we are on the right track, whether establishment folks agree with us or not. Let me tell you something. Establishment folks didn't agree with Frederick Douglass. Establishment folks did not agree with Dr. Martin Luther King, contrary to what folks preach now. So we are on the right side of history. It always seems impossible until it is done. So I think about it, and I told the group in Venice, as I begin to wrap this up, because I am really feeling so heavy, but also energized by this particular moment. Because when history is written, what is it going to say about what we were willing to fight for? Not just fight against, but fight for. People are motivated by what we are fighting for. Are we fighting for? So for me, how I got over, my soul looks back and wonders how I got over. When my sister sung, "A Change Is Gonna Come," I started thinking, I was feeling this way this morning, but our stories are our strength. And the reason why I do what I do is not because I'm some special person that was gifted in some way. I do what I do because I believe that to whom much is given, much is required. So, looking back on my life and remembering a time when I had some of the worst news that I think anybody can get short of having to bury a child, which was my mother was in the hospital. Note on the refrigerator door. I joked with the millennials this morning that in the olden days, we didn't get a chance to text one another. It was just a note on the refrigerator door. Y'all remember when you used to get them love notes in class and stuff like that? You know, that kind of thing. Just a good old-fashioned note, but on the refrigerator door. And little did I know that that was going to be a defining moment in my life and the lives of my siblings. The note said, "Go to the hospital because Mama is there. I will meet you there." And I got there, and I announced myself, my husband and I, and the nurse leaped from her seat, and she escorted us back to this room called the family room. I didn't know that the hospital was so long. It seemed like we were walking for days. When I got to that room, I was not prepared emotionally for what my eyes were going to see and what my ears were going to hear, as all of my 6 siblings were already there. I'm the oldest of 7. I have that brother that I was telling you about. He's 6 feet, 5 inches tall, and I had not seen him cry since he was a little boy. I tried to keep my emotions in check as the doctor walked into the room, and she said, "Family, I hate to inform you, but your mother is in a coma." And I asked the doctor, could I go to the room to see my mama? When I got there to look upon her face, I noticed that her eyes were rolled to the back of her head and her tongue was hanging out of the left side of her mouth, and the paramedics had cut her clothing from her body. I could no longer contain my emotion as the tears started to stream down my face. And I had a flashback about a mother that was not perfect. A mother that was raised in a solidly middle-class household, was the only child, could have grown up to be anything she wanted to be. I had a flashback about a mother who would cry herself to sleep at night because she couldn't afford to buy 7 children all the latest gadgets that everybody got at Christmas time. I had a flashback at periods of time where 7 children had to sleep in the same room. Or when my mother didn't even have enough food for groceries. Or when she was too embarrassed to tell her children that she could not afford to pay for the electricity. So we are in the living room praying to God to turn our lights on. A few weeks later, the doctor came to me and she said, Nina, as the oldest, you got to make a decision about when to pull the plug, because you see the machine by your mother's bed, she is not, it's the only thing that's keeping her alive, and she's not coming back. My mother was 42 years old when she died. I was 22. My baby sister was 12. There are 7 of us, and I'm at a community college trying to become a cycle breaker. And I didn't know how I was going to keep going. But by the grace of an almighty God, not only did I graduate from community college, I matriculated to a 4-year university, getting all types of fancy degrees. And every degree that I've ever gotten, I took those degrees in my mother's name. And although she never lived to see her oldest daughter accomplish some pretty incredible things, I do believe that she is in heaven saying, you go, girl. It made me think about Langston Hughes' poem, What Happens to a Dream Deferred? And my mother died with her dreams deferred at the young age of 42 years old. No life insurance policy, no money in the bank and on the system of welfare. I get it deep down in my bones what it means for people to struggle and try the very best that they can, despite what type of background they were born into. And guess what? My parents were married. They got married young and they divorced early. So I grew up the majority of my life in a single mother household. My mother, with all her flaws and her faults, she tried and she loved her 7 children. But how many of us know that everybody doesn't run this race at the same pace? And that is why I am determined to use every energy and every advantage that I have to try to make sure that nobody else's baby has to worry about what happens to a dream deferred, by standing up to the political class and the people that have and refuse to take no for an answer. It always seems impossible until it is done. So when you see me raising hell, I'm doing it to make sure that I do my part so that nobody else has to answer that question, so that our babies in Flint can have clean water. After 4 years, I think it's been long enough. So that our farmers in Wisconsin can know that they will have Medicare for all, just like all of us in this country deserve to have Medicare for all. That we have immigration, humane immigration reform in this country. That we stand up for people who, but for those of us who have voice and have cachet, that we are the voice for people who have a voice, but they might not have as big a cachet as we have, to know that I have done all that I humanly, all that I could to make a difference in somebody else's life. I think that those of us who are blessed ought to say so. And use our energy and our synergy, because nothing can stop a determined, conscious-minded people. And that the rainbow mosaic of humanity is being called upon right now. I do believe what the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said when he said that darkness can't do away with darkness, baby. Only light can. And hate can't drive out hate. Only love can. That as we are fighting this fight, that we can't lose sight of our humanity and the humanity of other folks, even if we don't agree with them. Because we are fighting this righteous fight. We are not perfect, but I believe that those of us who are in the progressive movement, that the issues that we fight for lift humanity. That we are very much in the tradition of the civil rights fighters of the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, that we are upon we need a new deal, but we are in our own revolutionary period. That the first revolution, the American Revolution in the 1700s, the second revolution was the Civil War, the third revolution was the Civil Rights Movement, And the fourth revolution is the revolution we are raging right now, which is to say that social justice, economic justice, environmental justice, gender justice, sexual orientation justice, criminal justice reform, that we want a new deal, that we're going to build upon what President FDR did in 1944. We want a new deal. That is worth fighting for. And that is why we're here. So I'm going to close with my three things, my signature three things that I believe that the creator of this universe has given us: two hands, one to reach forward and one to reach back, lifting as we climb. Number two, and most importantly, we can't ask other folks to do more for us than we are willing to do for ourselves. And lastly, in the words of that grandmother who died 4 months after my mother that year, that was a hard year for me and my family, who instilled in me and all of my siblings that we ought to be the best, and that if we couldn't be the best, that she wanted us to be so close to the best that nobody could tell the difference. My grandmother was born in 1913. She could not read or write, but sisters, she could count her money. And she kept her money in the Southern Ladies Bank and Trust with a handkerchief. I neglected to tell the group in Venice this morning, you know, my grandmother was something special. She was a pistol packing mama too. Because she kept the money on one side of the purse and the pistol on the other side of the purse. Love my grandmother to death, miss her every day. But when I asked my grandmother, what does it take to be successful in life? She said, my dear granddaughter, all you need are the three bones: the wishbone, the jawbone, and the backbone. She said the wishbone is for hoping and praying, because hope is our motivator. But our dream is the driver, the dreams that we have. She said the jawbone will give you courage to speak truth, the power to lift your voice and to make it known. We cannot sit on the sidelines and just let anything happen in our communities, in our state, and in this nation, and in this world. We must lift our voices. But she said, baby, the most important bone of them all, the supercalifragilistic expialidocious bone, is the backbone. Because the backbone will keep us standing through all of our trials and our tribulations. And in this life, sisters and brothers, we're going to go through some stuff. But we can't have a testimony without a test. And we are being tested, Lord knows, about whether or not we have courage enough, conviction enough to do what we know is right, no matter what. Because our mission is so high, we can't get over it. And our mission is so low, we can't get under it. And our mission is so wide, we can't get around it. And nobody walking God's green earth can replace you, or you, or you, or you, or you, or you in this fight for justice. So we got to take Grandma's three bones, be some hell-raising humanitarians, change this world for ourselves and for generations yet unborn, so that when history is written about what we did in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and beyond, people will say about us that we did the damn thing. God bless you.